Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Need Some Introduction. I'm your host, Victor, and on this podcast, we go week to week breaking down one of your streaming favorites. In this case, in this very episode, we will be breaking down the season finale of the second season of Your Friends and Neighbors. Joining me for this conversation, as has been the case for this entire series of the show, is Sona. Sona, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. How do you feel about your Knicks?
So excited about the Knicks and so angry at Ticketmaster for pulling whatever stunt is happening with the tickets.
What's happening? I don't know the details of it.
I'm actually checking again just as we speak, but as of last night, they never put the finals tickets on sale.
Oh my God. Are you checking
there
right now?
was, whatever pre-sale for super special people.
Right.
And of course, season ticket holders had their chance to buy, but those of us that are in the general public never had a chance. I'm actually just clicking on it now. Let me see. I probably missed it somehow in between tonight. No, on sale date and time are in the works. Please check back. This game is Monday. It's Friday.
Right.
When are these supposed to go on sale?
What if they somehow win the 4-game series tonight in the second game? You never know.
I don't know. Then they'll be like, hey, problem solved. We won't have to admit that we were going to gouge everyone beyond belief.
Oh my God. I can't imagine what kind of games, like you said, that are going on behind the scenes with reserve tickets for special, companies, who are buying blocks, etc. Who knows what this is going to be by the time it's done. But amazing. I don't want to jinx anything for the team, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just a couple of things that I couldn't believe in watching the game. One is, of course, it was tight throughout, an incredible defense on both sides on both teams, but I can never fails to amaze me that when Brunson just puts the entire game on his back and says, someone needs to score right now, even if he's been cold the entire game, he's just going to muscle up and, whether he's sinking a three uncontested or whether he's just getting under there and drawing the foul or putting up the shot and drawing the foul, it's incredible that he can deliver when he absolutely has to. It's an incredible skill, honestly.
I agree. Completely amazing.
And by the way, a very deep bench. People come off the bench and just start draining threes. An incredible team. Like really, I've been hearing it all year that maybe they're the best team in the NBA. And especially when the playoffs started, people started saying maybe they're the best team at this moment. And maybe they are. Here they are in the finals, and amazing that they win this game on the road. But the second thing I wanted to bring up about being on the road, I was stunned, absolutely stunned at the fact that this crowd was so New York friendly. It was shocking.
We are everywhere.
And traveling as well. First of all, yes, there are transplants of New York all over the world all over the world, yes, but all over the country as well, there for work, etc. But they are traveling as well to see this historic event.
From what I hear from others, and this is in line with what I hear about tickets generally, it was less expensive to go to San Antonio, literally to fly to San Antonio
right.
and stay there and go to the game. So
that is a very good point, of course. And we did discuss that briefly last week as well. Well, anyway,
it's just tonight. A system. It's just a symptom of how broken this whole system is. A symptom of a broken system. People should not be flying halfway across the country in order to attend an event.
And by the way, I think you've seen these articles as well. I touched on it briefly as well, that the system is so utterly broken. It's parallels a lot of what I've been saying about the movie business as well, where you have these very small films that have been coming out and being massively successful recently. And yet the theaters business is collapsing because you built these giant mall-sized theaters for the occasional blockbuster that fills the place. And then the rest of the time, it's like vacancies. Now that you pre-book your tickets, it's incredible that you go and they're all empty. And to your point, whether it's concerts or whether it's these games, not only is it completely broken where a flight and buying a ticket is cheaper sometimes than buying in your own backyard. And we saw that with the Taylor Swift concert as well. People are traveling to Europe to see her there because they couldn't get tickets here. And meanwhile, you've heard about this.
And Beyonce,
yes. But you've heard about this Blue Dot issue that's been going on where some of the biggest stars in the music world are canceling huge chunks of their concerts this summer because they cannot sell out arenas in these these kind of like less populated areas. And meanwhile, like the tickets in the populated areas are sold past capacity and going for crazy. And it's this crazy haves and have-nots that is just occurring everywhere in the economy.
It's a mess.
It's crazy. But New York, of course, full of millions of people who are desperate for an NBA win, are exporting their fans all over the country. And we'll see game 2 tonight. I mean, if they, I don't want to say anything. I was going to say if they win tonight.
Don't say it.
We are not going to say anything. That's it. We'll see how it goes. And by the time we meet again next week, by the way, Sona, of course, this series will be well defined by that. Oh, second thing I wanted to bring up, I wanted to preview the next show that we'll be covering, Beyond Your Friends and Neighbors. I know you didn't get a chance to see this, but I did want to give you like a couple of spoiler-free talking points and also to introduce it to the audience in case they haven't caught up as well. The next show that Sona and I will be watching, and I think you're going to like this show, by the way, Sona. So it is the new adaptation on Apple TV of Cape Fear, which of course it was one of these noir novels from the 1950s, I believe, and then of course became a famous film in 1962. And then I think this is the one you probably have seen because this is probably your peak movie-going experience, a period of time, Sona. But Cape Fear in 1991, which did you see? You have seen that, correct?
Yes, we saw it together.
And I did. Yes, we discussed this previously, right? And I know you mentioned it again. I'm like, was it this movie or was it The Ring?
We've seen a lot of movies together.
We saw The Ring 2 together. I don't think we saw The Ring together. We saw The Ring 2.
That's right. I saw The Ring all alone at home.
But we did see Ring 2 together because we were so excited for that one. And of course, Cape Fear, which we discussed, the Scorsese version from 1991. And here we have another adaptation. It's been quite some time since this thing being adapted again. By the way, executive produced by Scorsese and Spielberg, who produced the previous one. So interesting that they brought them back. So they must have been interested enough in this adaptation to get involved. This comes from the creator, Nick Antosca, I think he pronounces his name, who's done mostly horror shows, anthology shows, but recently has made these kind of true crime adaptations that are more thriller and less horror. And The Act, did you ever see this show, The Act, with Patricia Arquette, that got a bunch of Emmy nominations a few years back?
No, I haven't.
It was based on that woman who had her daughter or sickened her daughter. It's like a Munchausen by proxy case. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a very famous case.
I think I do, but this isn't about Gypsy Rose. Is it?
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So he did the adaptation of that show. It's one of the big premiere, but he's also done a lot of horror anthologies and such. And I know him mostly from that. And this is his next big project. And of course, very prestigious producers and the cast as well, right? So you have Patrick Wilson playing the father of the family that is terrorized by Max Cady, this prisoner right out of prison who blames him for being incarcerated beyond his time there. In the original story, the female character is simply like the mom who's trying to keep the family together, and this Max Cady character is coming along, and the husband is, the prosecutor is kind of may have covered up some evidence, so he feels, he feels like he's trying to protect himself and trying to hide things from his family. It's interesting that it overlaps in some ways with some of the themes of Your Friends and Neighbors. But here, and this is where it might be more interesting to you, Sona, the Amy Adams character was actually his defense lawyer, and that she and the prosecutor ended up meeting on this case. So the Max Cady feels that there might have been something shady going on, the fact that they end up together eventually. And then Cady's character eventually is released. And I'm bearing the lead here, of course, that Max Cady is played by Javier Bardem. And he is, Patrick Wilson's doing a good job, but he seems like very reserved. So we know that there's going to be another shoe to drop with his story. Amy Adams, who I love, she's not quite gelling for me yet, but we'll see how that goes going forward. But this show is kind of hysterical. The tone of it is a little over the top. And I was thinking, I don't know if this is going to work for me. And then, because then Bardem's going to show up and be even more over the top, because I'm expecting that to be the real chaos agent in the story, like you expect in previous versions. And he shows up and he is so calm, and it's incredible. The show knows what they have. He is utterly magnetic every time he's on screen. And I loved it. I was like, oh, wow. Like this, at first, I'm like, I don't know if this show's going to just keep getting more and more chaotic as it goes on. And the amazing thing is that he settles the show when the chaos agent shows up. He's in total control. And it's a fascinating way to structure the show. So I'm 2 episodes in, and I was thinking to myself, 2 episodes are available. So that's the announcement I wanted to make to everybody. And I was thinking, how is this going to be able to be spun out for 10 episodes? And I'm still not sure they'll be able to do it. But 2 episodes in, I am utterly fascinated with what's going on with the show. And like I said, every single time I'm kind of like, wow, this shows that this family, in my mind, my expectation is the family is like this ideal American family. And this chaos agent comes and starts to create fissures in the family. And instead, it's like these people are so messy already. I'm like, I don't know if this is the right way to take the story. And for him to show up and then like center everybody is like, wow, that was the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen, which is kind of a really interesting way to deal with the material. So very much enjoyed the first 2 episodes. So,
nice.
Sona and I will be recording about it from here on. So next week.
That's right.
In the same time slot.
I'm going to catch up.
It. Sona will be catching up. And maybe over the weekend, I will put out an episode discussing those first 2 episodes, maybe with my wife, maybe with my sister, maybe with my wife, my sister, and Sona. Who knows?
Hey.
There'll be a mystery episode dropping this weekend, and we'll see who attends that conversation. But yeah, I'm very excited about seeing how this progresses. Oh, and maybe interesting to you, Sona, where it might resonate for you. And I already had so many questions in watching this, that Amy Adams now is kind of a celebrity for being the head. This is like later in her career, obviously. Max Kitty's been in jail for over a decade, almost 2 decades. So this is much later on. And now she has become this celebrity figurehead for one of these like Innocence Project type organizations. And of course, there's this tension there that she may have railroaded this guy, and now she's kind of this emblematic of this, there's an irony there, especially when he's out of jail and he becomes kind of a celebrity in his own right, and they have to play nice in public. It's a really interesting dynamic. But I was curious, given the fact that you have tangentially worked with these organizations, that there might be some additional resonance to it. Oh, and the other thing I'd say that makes it so compelling a watch, even though these people aren't really that sympathetic, they lean into the horror here. There are moments where the alarm keeps going off in their homes. And there's a moment where the daughter opens the door. And as she's closing the door, through the door frame, like in the background in the house, you see someone running through the living room or something. And it is like just that tension that like there's somebody in my house is so evocative in and of itself. It makes it really a compelling watch. And how long have they been there? Another really disturbing thought as well. So check that out.
Cool.
All right, Sona, we get to the big conversation point of this episode, the season finale of Your Friends and Neighbors. We were not that enthusiastic about last week's episode. And I guess I'll just say it outright. I wasn't really in love with, to say the least, with this season finale, but very happy when you mentioned to me that you had enjoyed it, because I didn't want to just bash something here on the podcast, considering that people have criticized us for that in the first place. But I want to break down the plot. But before we do that, just your general impressions.
So I really enjoyed this, which was very refreshing. And I am not sure I would go so far as to say that it redeemed the entire season, but it did make me hopeful, since we know that this show is continuing, that they have turned a corner here towards something that I think is more aligned with what this show could be and should be, and I think intended to be about. That being said, there were some pretty interesting things that happened in this episode that were just, some of the plot devices were questionable, but we will get to it. And I do like where it landed. I think it gave me something to think about, which I appreciated.
Okay. I'm curious what that is, but
yes,
I liked certain beats. Maybe I'll start there. I like certain beats in the plot, and we'll get into some of the things that happen.
So let's start with this. I will say, while I'm showing my appreciation.
Sure.
I thought the whole sequence of events up to the credits was so entertaining, up to the opening credits. Super entertaining, ending with Sam opening the door and walking in on them all. I really loved that. What did you think about it?
That is uneven for me. I think
really?
that definitely walking in a door at that moment is really like a comedic crime caper highlight, like right out of Weekend at Bernie's, like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
So like it really was very fun in that way. And I love just all the meticulous like cleaning up of the house and how they're like really doing a good job of this, like not like Coop did the first time he found himself in a house with someone's head blown up next to him. So all of that worked out really well. And then, of course, the punchline that in the middle of all that, she shows up like they're so meticulous and then they didn't lock the door or whatever. But she might have a key as well.
Right. I loved it. I will say, to look at the other side of it, I think this show does struggle with figuring out what tone it wants to be hitting. And I think there's room for a lot of different tones, but sometimes it's like a whiplash thing with this show.
Yeah. And where I'll say that I did laugh at that. And I love that is the cold open and the credits come after that. So all of that was obviously an intentional punchline. Although that all worked for me, the very beginning of the episode did not work for me. You either need to have someone be really rash and jump in to making this decision and then dragging the other guys in some way, rather than having them all sit down and discuss it all and come to the conclusion that actually we all need to cover up this death. I'm like, really? Like the longer that went on, the more it doesn't make any sense that you wouldn't simply call the police, and the idea that they're like, but you don't understand, this will be really bad on me because I already got arrested last year and it'll really look bad if you're a celebrity, you're going to be in the news. I'm like, if they discover this later on and they're going to certainly think you're covering up a murder, then I don't understand, like their rationale just doesn't make sense to me. And like, and the same thing with Barney, he's got a kid on the way and all of this seems pretty crazy.
So this is where I'm saying like some of the plot devices are questionable. I do agree that was not necessarily the logical conclusion from the facts that they have. They had no choice but to hide the body. I'm not sure that all paths led to that conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, if I can understand, like if Coop just says, I'm going to do this myself, one of them is really rash. And then like the thing that they got right with Nick being like, you guys are crazy. I'm getting the hell out of here. And then he goes back to support them. If that had been the case in general and, Coop had been the one who did all this, or if like some other shoe dropped, like they find out that, there's some smoking gun in the house that makes them look guilty. And they're like, oh my God, now we have to cover this up. Something to the idea of these also, by the way, rubbed me very much the wrong way. Part of their rationale of being like, the reason that we're going to get railroaded is because we're rich white guys. We're definitely going to get railroaded. You know how that is all the time. So I'm like, not sure if I buy that rationale, but the explanations they made to each other in that moment, and it just didn't ring true at all. It's kind of
I don't disagree.
Right away.
I don't disagree. I will say on the plus side, I really struggle with liking Olivia Munn because she makes me like her despite myself. It's like I don't want to like her, but I just can't help it. I think she was really great in these scenes where she's coming to the conclusion of like, all right, bury him in the pool before they pour the concrete.
Right.
I liked all of that. And I liked the circling back of, I can't lift this body because I just had a vasectomy, no heavy lifting. Yes. Okay, the two of us will do it. Oh, my back. Like I thought all of that was very entertaining.
Yeah, I want to be specific about my critique of the beginning is that them just doing it without rationalizing it would actually work better for me than them trying to the more they try to rationalize, the more you think about it, and you're like, this is ridiculous.
Doesn't make
Just
sense.
call 911. Yeah. What are you doing?
Right.
I mean, this is the craziest thing about it. He had a gun. No one's going to believe us. Hey, get rid of all the video. He has the whole house wired with video. Show the video to the cops. Like, what are you talking about? There's the proof that he was chasing you around the house with a gun and slipped. It doesn't make any sense at all. So.
And also the idea that decision had to be made so immediately. Yes, I do think it's a quick decision, but I don't think letting 15 minutes pass while you collect yourselves is going to be critical in people deciding that you've committed a murder and covered it up or called 911 fairly immediately. I feel like they tried to, time was of the essence, but not to the extent that they were making it out to be, that we have to decide in the next 2 minutes, otherwise it's all over, you know?
I mean, the other crazy thing about it is that there's also a version of this where again, the more they rationalize it, the worse it becomes, where they say specifically, well, why don't we just leave and then someone will find the body? And his rationale is, well, I don't want the daughter to find the body. As if he couldn't just like say, I came to check on him in the morning and he was there. Or if they're going to be like, oh, and they're going to know we're here because of the cameras. I'm like, okay, so the cameras are either there and maybe there were no cameras in the hallway. Who knows, right? But like either there is evidence they were there or there was not. Like you can't have it both ways. And none of that makes any sense. Especially by the way. I
agree. Yeah. Although I do
say that, especially when they take the cameras and then they're trying to make it look like he just disappeared. And then why did he take all the drives out of the cameras if that's the case? But of course, that could be true. Like he might be covering up some shady activity. So I'm not going to ding it too much for that. That's a good part of their cover up for sure. I just think that the cameras themselves could have exonerated them. And they could have just like looked at the footage of the cameras to see whether they're, and this might be going to the cloud. Who knows? Like it just doesn't make any sense.
I agree with all of it, although I did appreciate that they acknowledged the existence of cameras.
Yes, at least, yes.
But I do think, coming back to my criticism of it's become a plot device, whether they need the camera to exist or not. The cameras conveniently don't exist for certain things, but do exist for others.
All right, so I got really, really hung up on that, and it did bump me hard very early on. But once we get past that, I do agree all that. The cleanup and how meticulous they're being, the exact opposite of all the dumb things he didn't do before, only to have her walk in. Very funny. And like I said, really comedy, hijinks, crime hijinks, really perfectly staged. So love that. It was just so hard to process that as I'm still like my head spinning at all the contrivances that I need to accept to get to that point.
I understand. I just went with it, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, even if it had been like, Coop by himself, that's another way you can play this all out. Coop by himself. He's like, I'm going to take the bullet for you guys. You guys weren't here. Get out of here. I'm going to clean up everything. He goes around the house and then he's like, there was a camera. They caught us showing up. The camera's only out. So they know we were here. You guys have to come back. Or he's like dragging the body out of the house and he throws out his back and he's like, oh my God, pinned on the floor again like he was in episode 2. I can't even get up. And then all of a sudden, Nick and Barney standing over him being like, we came back to help you out, right? Like just something to make it a little more believable for me.
Yeah, I get it.
And then, of course, you could still have the punchline. They're like his feet hanging out of a carpet or something. And then Olivia Munn just rolls up and they're just standing there in the headlights. Oh, hi. Mm-hmm. They could have still had the payoff there. Oh, and absolutely agree. Sam, totally rational here. She's saying, well, that's one less thing I have to do. And she's been like an MVP this whole season, honestly. And and even the whole thing of like, what are you guys going to do? And she has a better better idea for disposing of the body. And the Coop's like, oh yeah, that does make more sense. By the way, pouring the concrete, it's like something like out of a cartoon where you just like pour it. That's actually not how that works. Like if you bury someone and there's like mesh and the workers are like checking that later on, they may very well just like step on a hand or something. So maybe it wouldn't have worked out the way they thought.
Interesting.
But nonetheless, it's wire mesh I'm talking about. But anyway, the it seems a little unlikely that would have played out as nicely as they claim. But there are better ways to do it than this. Of course, the big payoff here is I've been saying all the movie references in the show, and none of them really seem to have paid off with as far as like kind of some kind of sting operation. But of course, all the way back in episode 1, we do have that beautiful shot of the fisherman. In Night of the Hunter, we have the car under the water and the fisherman finding the body submerged in the water. And of course, that is A, the car ends up in the lake, and B, the fisherman discovering the body. So that's all the way at the very end. So I mean, that's just the reference point we have back to like the one movie reference point, I think. Well, other than Thief, they'd have Michael Mann's Thief in there. Of course, Thief, pretty straightforward. But some of these other things didn't really pay off. But let's talk about how he gets into the lake. So what did you think about this? Another moment I didn't really love, where despite the fact that they've checked multiple times and he's definitely dead and they've dragged him around and yada, yada, he's not dead. He like springs to life in the backseat of the car, of his own car. And as they were heading to the pool and they get into a fight, they don't pull over and wrestle him or just, by the way, just say, oh my God, we thought you were dead. We're taking you to the hospital, right? And of course, they get into a fight in the car.
What did you think about that whole idea? We didn't need this to happen, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Again, this is another thing that really bothered me because, we didn't. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I mean, because all of the guilt and whatever could have existed regardless of whether he somehow miraculously came back to life. Although I guess, again, an entertaining idea that at the house, they were like, check the pulse again. And Barney is saying he's definitely dead. Well, he wasn't definitely dead. So I guess I liked that part of it. They are surprisingly strong swimmers, all of them.
Right.
And also, so one of my personal fears, maybe we've discussed this, is being submerged in a car to the point that I have purchased a life hammer for our car. Do you know what that is?
Yes, to break the window.
Right. So this is like playing on my nightmare scenario to be in this. But I guess I didn't understand several logistical things. Am I getting ahead of it? Because you've only come to him going back to life. We haven't put him in the lake yet.
Oh, no, you can go forward.
Okay. So, well, first of all, when he comes back to life, I don't know why they didn't just put the brakes on the car immediately.
Exactly.
I guess maybe one of those things where like just too much is going on and you can't collect yourself. But it seemed like it went on for a very long time and there would have been time to just pull over and stop. But nonetheless, they end up in the lake. I would have thought, well, first of all, okay, the three of them get out. I believe that they are sufficiently strong swimmers to be able to do that, especially with the adrenaline. But then the decision to go back in and relocate him from back seat to front seat, I thought, first of all, isn't it super dark? Like, Can you even see underwater at nighttime like that?
I don't think so. Unless there's unless there's a full moon. That's only in movies. Even a full moon is not going to give you enough light to be able to see to the bottom of the lake.
Improbable that you would be able to see well enough to do that, to locate where you came from and do that. And then also that the three of them are such strong swimmers that they would be able to do that. I've also, in my paranoia, I've read things about like, the pressure needs to equalize, otherwise you're not going to be able to open the door. But maybe the car was down there long enough for that to happen. I wasn't sure logistically if it made sense that they could even open the doors and get him in and out. But I guess there was a broken window too, right? So So maybe all the water went into the car and the pressure equalized. I don't know. I had questions is the point. Despite being willing to hand wave away all the opening sequence stuff, this is where I had questions.
Yeah, this was the compounding effect I had where I had butt against that. And then it's like, I'll be okay. I'll forgive you now, show. I'll forgive you. And then we have this, and again, bumping again so soon in the episode, I really had an issue. Like you said, all the things you just said. It just, why, all self-inflicted, like you mentioned as well. Why do we need to have him end up in the lake? For example, you could have done this same thing without having all of that shenanigans at the beginning when they're like, we're going to put him in the car and take him to the hospital. Like, we think he's still alive. And they decide we could be done with this nightmare we have if we kill him. Like, we could be cold-blooded killers, and like, we can't do that. And then they end up in the lake because, and then they're like, okay, well, I guess we did kill him after all. And now they're more culpable in it, of course. But now they've doubled down and now they're stuck with their decision, right? So there's ways you could have made this all work, in my opinion. But the whole idea of like, he's dead, no, he's not, he's back. And then it's like, okay, why do we need him to come back? And then you have him, like you said, and then you have already this kind of preposterous thing at the beginning of the episode, only to have them, again, all the things you just said. They run off the road. Why didn't they just pull over? They decide like, oh my God, we have to like, maybe they were just trying to calm him down, but potentially they could just pull over and be like, we're out of this situation, right? We didn't almost kill him. He will make an excuse like, you don't understand. We thought you were dying. We rescued you, put you in the car so we could take you to the hospital. We weren't going anywhere to dispose of your body. And
on that point, did I see it right that Ash attacked them first or no?
He seems like he attacks Barney in the back seat.
Right. So why would he do that as he's like coming to? Maybe he remembers what they were fighting about, right, when it all happened.
He's buckled in the back seat. Like if he comes to and he's buckled in the back seat, why wouldn't they be like, oh, we were definitely planning to he wasn't in the trunk. He was buckled in the back seat. The reason they have to go back down there and pull him out of his seat and put him in the front is because he's buckled. If he wasn't buckled and he just was bouncing around the car, then no one's going to know 2 months from now when they find the floating body inside the car that he was in the front seat or the back seat. No one's going to know that. If he's buckled in the back seat, that looks really suspicious, right? But then why did they buckle him if they thought he was dead? None of this makes any sense. So yes, all that logistics now to set that up. And then, but to what? So that now for the rest of the episode, for the most part, we see them dealing with this, right? Like, and it's breaking them all apart, right? Not only are they having all this tension within themselves, but Barney, his wife, knows for sure he's been lying. Now she knows even more so that there's something he's hiding. This is putting a huge strain on the marriage. She's literally kicked him out of the house. Nick is having a personal crisis, like falling apart in front of everybody. And Coop's big crisis here, of course, is finally going to Mel and saying to her, hey, what would you be okay if I said, look, maybe we need to live in a $1 million house instead of a $5 million house or two $5 million houses? You think we could really squeeze our budget that low? And she basically says to him, look, it was never about the money, which is a good scene, by the way, when she's like saying to him.
So this is what I really liked about this episode. And I think it's something interesting that kind of turns what we've been seeing on its head, is that a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week even, it felt like, oh, Coop is surrounded by all these hysterical women that's making it so hard to carry on with the thievery. And Barney's got Grace in his ear. Why don't you work for my father? Why don't you work for my father? And I think in both of those situations, we see that's how the men saw it. But from the women's perspective, it's not that. It's that they're not just these hysterical women. They can tell that something is wrong and something has been wrong. And they're angry about it, understandably. And the issues between them aren't coming from what these men had thought of, I am accustomed to this lifestyle, I will not scale back.
Right.
It's that they're not being honest about what the situation is. So the woman doesn't have enough, the wife, the partner, doesn't have enough information to even go along with that. So the men are making these assumptions, which may or may not be true. We don't know how it would all play out if it were reality, about what these women, who these women are and what they want and what they'll accept as a standard, as standards in their life. But the women are actually more upset about what's going on interpersonally and what that means. And so there's been a disconnect this entire time. And I thought that was really interesting.
I agree that it's interesting, but you think about this show in general and what could be, in my opinion, at least, a better version of the show, that you obviously have the crime element that has not been really delved into. And there's the fun of that, the poking fun at these people in that regard. And on the other hand, you have exactly this, that thematically, just as a drama, that's what I was hoping to get out of even season one, but definitely in season two, this exact question that you're bringing up, that how much of this is he's like, she's going to leave me if I don't make this much money, because that's what she's used to, only to discover that she's like, I didn't want that in the first place anyway. And I'm kind of tired of this performative lifestyle as well. But then if you actually make that concession that that's what you're going to hope to do. So first of all, it's the ego of it, that actually what's driving him is the ego. He's looking for an excuse, but it was actually his own ego that wouldn't allow him to accept that maybe he didn't, he had miscalculated his career, or maybe we really didn't need to compromise himself as much for this. So that would be interesting to delve into at all. And then also the opposite side of that. Imagine they're like, of course, honey, I'm here for you. Let's scale back. And then finding out that actually, maybe to your own surprise, that you really are acclimated to something and you really can't scale back, right? So these are all things that can be explored. And for example, imagine he tries to scale back this season and he's not stealing as much, only to discover, actually, I do want those nice things, or actually, I do have a chip on my shoulder about these other guys seeing me stating that I need to scale back and maybe sell my house. You know what? Screw them. I'm going to go and steal their stuff. All those things would be really interesting motivators for his actions. And the show really hasn't been about those themes, and hasn't been about the crimes, and it hasn't really tied those things together. But it is in isolation a good scene. I'm glad they finally had that conversation. It's just shocking to me this show took this long to get to that point.
I agree.
It seems like it's like trying to be like, oh, we finally came to that revelation. Like we needed this to get there. And I'm like, I feel like you've been like doing everything else except for having this conversation, even That's as fair. They started hooking up together again, even as they like went back to Princeton and like relived their glory days. In none of that time this ever came up. It just seems odd.
That's fair. But I still thought it was promising.
Yes. And maybe that is what season 3 will finally be about. Who knows? Oh, by the way, you mentioned it already, but season 3 currently in production, has been renewed and currently in production. So it might be even less than a year by the time we get season 3. So see. And there was another thing you brought up that I was thinking about as well, as far as maybe it'll come back. But yeah, just as far as like kind of those themes of what might actually be driving you and asking yourself, like, do I really want all of this? Again, what should be the thematic center of the whole show, I think. Speaking of that, by the way, do you think, we were all talking about, I've been complimenting her this whole entire season, Olivia Munn's character. Do you think Sam is really gone? Because she is doing exactly that, right? Exactly what you mentioned as far as like opting out, scaling back.
Well, and she had the comment about life in a fishbowl, right? That it's no fun being in the fishbowl, but it's less fun when you get kicked out of the fishbowl or something like that.
Right.
I'm fracturing it, but I feel like they did a nice job weaving that theme in throughout this episode, although your point is very valid that it took a long time to get here. I have not heard one way or the other if she is returning for the next season.
Right.
But I did hear that a favorite of yours, Michelle Monaghan, is signed on for the next season, who seems like maybe a similar type. So I wonder if that will be the last we see of her. I don't know.
I read the same thing and I was thinking exactly that. I'm like, well, it would be odd to have Olivia Munn and Michelle Monaghan on the show at the same time. They're also bringing, what's his name from The Affair, Joshua Jackson as well.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, apparently he's in the new season. Okay, another thing that happens here, Coop, of course, is having this crisis of conscience, and he wants to reconnect with his sister. Again, these type of things that could be interesting, that Ali sees all of this as he is always trying to protect her, keep her from, getting into trouble, hyper vigilant about her behavior, but maybe he's the one who needs her around as a security blanket. Again, an interesting theme that really hasn't been delivered on that well. But what did you think about this scene? Because again, it has some of that thematic discussion that you were talking about.
This lady's got it in her contract that she gets to sing every episode she's in, right?
I guess so.
What is happening? It was really shoehorned in this time. But although they did use that song as kind of like a thematic point, I liked this scene between them, actually. And I'm not a big fan of her character. No problem with the actress. Just, I feel like the character is struggling. And I liked how he curled up in the corner of her couch a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it felt like home and familiar, even though he had never actually been there before. Just being with her let him be himself. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like all that. Like you just mentioned, I think that seeing this brother and sister and how in the end having her not in the house is maybe something he needed more than she did, and tracking her down and this whole thing he's been on is all like, even what he says that he's like, I got to make sure she's okay. I got to see what she's up to. And really it's kind of his lack that he's kind of compensating for. So all that's really interesting. And of course, the fact that, he talks about how he can't sleep all the time. Another good scene, by the way, I have to circle back to, I forget if this is later in the episode or earlier, but when they're at that party and he talks to his friend because he's like, oh, I know you're having an affair.
Yeah.
And he says, I know you're having that affair. And he's like, oh my God, does everybody know? It's like, no, just me. I walked in on you guys. How did they not notice that people walked in?
I know. And also it's not just him, it's Mel too. Right. Mel too.
That's true. He should have said, it's just me and Mel. But maybe he didn't want to mention the fact that him and Mel are looking for a place to hook up themselves. But I liked all of this where it's just like, oh, you thought I was going to be sympathetic to you because I'm, hooking up with strangers right now, which of course we did see at the beginning of the season, this like montage of him hooking up. But he's like, what it's like 90% of the time, which is so true. Like when you're single, it's like, what it's like 90% of the time? You're sitting home by yourself watching TV. It's like, yes, exactly. The glamour only comes occasionally. But he says, either suck it up and talk to your wife and be honest about it and get a divorce and don't go and do this behind people's backs, or just call it off and try to work out your marriage, which I thought was a good piece of advice. And again, showing what the show could be about. Coop now finally learning some lessons here.
Yes.
Okay, well, it doesn't work so great. Yes, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I did enjoy that scene, but I also thought about it as he was talking to Coop as if Coop's the one that had the affair.
Yeah.
Whereas Coop apparently was known for his fidelity, whatever passive aggressive things he did to his family that made them feel like they were not his priority were the issue. But, the wife is the one that had the affair. I don't know. It just felt like a strange dynamic when Coop is the one that was cheated on, not the one doing the cheating.
Yeah, it's
still a good conversation nonetheless.
Agreed. Yeah, just have to take the wins where I can get them. But I agree but all of that I thought the same thing in the moment where I'm like, why is he going to Coop?
Yeah, like why does he think Coop will identify with this?
Yeah, the rationale of it, by the way, in his mind is like, oh, you're currently out there just hooking up with other women. And it's like, but you're not out there hooking up with other women, anonymously. You're hooking up with this same person who happens to be your best friend's wife, which is what happened, like you said, is what his wife, what Mel did to with Nick to him, right? So it's like, how am I going to be sympathetic of this?
Yeah, it's not just that he's done with the current wife. He thinks he's in love with the other person. I'm just not sure that the analogy really was there, but the conversation was good.
He should have had that conversation with Mel. By the way, you could have had this conversation with Mel, and Mel could have been like, I know what's happening already. She really
could have related. Yeah.
Because she walked in on them. So she has the exact same context that Coop has. It's just very odd. It literally feels like in the 11th hour, someone, when they were shooting this episode, they're like, actually, this should be Coop. And it would make sense because Coop walked in on there too. But it's like, no, none of this rationale makes sense. It makes sense for Mel to be like, look, you did this to Coop. I need to talk to you. And she's like, don't do this. Look, I've been there. Don't do this.
Right. It's not worth it. Yeah.
Very odd. Or that this scene happened with the wife he's cheating on talking to Mel, right? It still works. But I guess we wanted to have Coop have this, say these words and like show some growth. But yeah, it's an odd fit for sure. But I mean, the content of it, the scene itself, the performance, all of that, his John Hamm's kind of stern, telling him this is not going to work out for you. I liked all of it. It just, again, like so many things on this episode just contrived to get to where we're going. Okay, contrived to get where we're going. What did you think about Elena getting her one scene here, getting punched in the face and robbed?
Okay, well, she had more than one scene because she had the scene with Coop, which made me wonder, and I couldn't recall. Has she told them why she needs this money?
I know. Why isn't she just really upfront about that? I mean, she does say, I'm out of time, but...
Yeah. Right. So
yeah,
it's disappointing that Coop and Barney are so self-involved
right.
that they have not thought to be like, she does seem particularly stressed. Maybe something is going on here.
Right.
But I also think, it's hard for me to form an opinion because it's my own fault. I can't remember if she ever said what happened with the bail money. It seems like Coop and Barney are particularly heartless if they know that this is what's going on. And between the two of them, they can't scrounge together the money for her. But I guess if she didn't tell them, which I'm guessing is the case, I can understand it a little bit more. What with them covering up the body, they're a little distracted. But it is just disappointing that they're not recognizing this is somebody in distress, and it shouldn't take that much for them to help her.
I mean, I honestly, now that we're discussing it, details of this scene are coming back, and I had just talked about the final moments with her rather than this one. And I forgot how really, again, the logistics of the show in this episode and maybe in the season in general, I constantly bump up against this. The idea that this is like a really pressing matter. Why don't they just get the money? That Nick is also, as part of this cycle of things, Nick has their $600,000 and will not release it because he's like, until this is all cleared up, I don't want to move any money at all. Nick could simply write a check to one of his friends for $100,000. They don't even need $100,000. They only need the $50,000 for Elena. And even if Nick goes absolutely not, that would be suspicious because he's totally paranoid right now. Even if that's the case, I am nowhere near as wealthy as these people are, nowhere near as wealthy as they are. And I could easily take like a personal loan against my own investments for $50,000. I couldn't do that permanently, but I could do that and then replenish it in 6 months if I needed to. The idea that these millionaires cannot figure this out is really just frustrating, to say the least. And honestly, Nick literally said that. Why were you guys doing this to launder your money? I would have just given you the money as a loan. Why can't he just give them the check now and everyone's problems go away? It's just the show forgets what it did the previous episode. It just really frustrates me. And it's not like the performances are fine, and it's not like the moments they're working towards all kind of work. It's literally like not being able to get people from one room to the other plausibly, and it just drives me crazy, I gotta say. But what did you think about where she is now at this point? They rob her, they make it look legit. I guess the things they take, he's probably insured for this stuff, like some watches and things. They don't take his ring.
Yeah, this felt a little bit more like a plot device too, in that I guess we're trying to see that they're trying to show us that Elena is not the type of person that would take something from Nick on her own.
Right.
But you're really right there adjacent to it when you orchestrate the robbery, right? Like, I'm not sure you have the moral high ground that you didn't put it in your purse. You let somebody in to take it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's the same situation where she's not morally compromised. Like you said, this happened on her watch, and it's because of her actions or her brother's actions, but then of course, indirectly her actions as well, being involved in these robberies in general. So it's all kind of associated to her, but she's like plausibly one step removed. But like you said, we don't know, she has some kind of deep moral obligation to Nick. If Nick wasn't in the loop with Coop, like Coop will be like, don't touch his stuff. But then that doesn't make any sense either. Coop tried to steal stuff from him last year. So even that doesn't make sense that, she's doing this to not be bad to Coop's friend, which doesn't make any sense at all at this point. And of course, to your point that she's also worked at other people's homes and she's had no problem getting them robbed. So it doesn't really seem like she has, like you said, there's no moral high ground here at all. So,
yeah.
But we can speculate. We'll leave that to the end, speculating on what might happen in the next season. Is there anything else there? Barney and his wife, what did you think about those? Those scenes are actually good. She's like, look, I can't take this anymore. You're lying to me. So I thought that was actually pretty good.
I enjoyed it too. I thought it was very realistic.
Oh, Coop returns the painting to, let's get some of the logistics out of this. Returns the painting to Corbin Burnton's house, Jack, I think his name is, and returns the 600. So he had $1 billion in his account. Again, the math before where he was like saying like, I get 5%. And he's like, that's $20 million. I'm like, no, he gave you the full billion. At 5% of that is 50. Come on, people, do some math. You're this is your job. But anyway, he gives him back the 600 million, which he was only holding so that he hit that cap. And then the 400 million are still held. But again, even that, this is, by the way, loved when Elena reacted to that he's like, I sent it all back. And she's like, are you out of your mind? You couldn't borrow like $500,000 against the $1 billion you had in that account? And he's just like, no, I didn't want it to look messy. And she's like, she's like, white people. And I like when Barney's like, tell me about it. And she's like, you're whited. And he is. Yeah. So that, some comedic bits there that I enjoyed. But yeah, all of that is crazy. The 400 million is still held by the Excelsior account. Oh, of course, I have to, again, trying to tie up plot, which the show, honestly, surprisingly, doesn't answer any of the questions from this season. Hardly. I mean, we don't find out what Ash was really involved with. If he has people that he works with that are dangerous people, supposedly all these teases about who's out there who might be pulling his strings. We don't really get any kind of insight into that. But we do get at least one minor thing, which is that the lawyer sticks to his word to give the video back to Coop because Ash has disappeared. Very odd that would happen where the lawyer wouldn't just hang on to that because you don't even know, maybe Coop's involved, right? We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Very odd that he would say, well, I promised him I'd give this back if he ever disappeared. And now he disappeared. So here you go. Very odd. Also, the fact that Coop goes, well, he might come back at some point. And the lawyer goes, you know as well as I do that he won't. And I'm like, really? I guess the lawyer is assuming that he's disappeared because of the investigations. I guess that's what the assumption is. And he left his $400 million behind. It's really odd.
I did enjoy the bowling alley scene, though, just all around. I thought it was very sweet.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to the idea that maybe they can have a simpler life. Oh, speaking of that, what did you think of Tori saying, I should go to college? What was I thinking?
Oh, my gosh.
Yes. Anyway, at least she's come around to it, too, just like her dad, finally learning some lessons. Yeah. Oh, I did like that as well. This telling, very ironic, him talking to the daughter of Ash's daughter, saying that even if he's gone for good, that your dad is still there. And, I'm a lot older than you are, but, I just lost my dad recently and he's always there. That's kind of what your dad is. And that I thought was interesting and pretty, but on one hand, again, I like the content of the conversation, but underlying that he knows full well what happened to the dad, and that if she's traumatized by this because he's covering up this death, is it kind of undercuts all the advice he gave her, is what I say. Okay, so what do we know for season 3? It's hinted that Cricket is the person who actually threatened and wanted that money left in Excelsior. And we did speculate on that, right? That like, who else? Supposedly Cricket's going to lose her mind and get so mad. I'm like, but what if she needs that money to for the Excelsior to be liquid? And then she honestly wants to put people over her barrel so that situation happens, but she doesn't want to have any accountability to it. So maybe she could be a puppet master here. But if that's the case, they really needed to make that part of the payoff here in the finale, I think. But maybe we'll see that in season 3. I honestly feel like there's a pretty good chance that we will leave that unexplored. Like everyone will just be like, well, maybe it was Cricket, or maybe it was someone else in the Excelsior fund who was pressuring us.
Maybe they haven't decided who it is yet.
They might. Yeah. There's so many things. I feel like, honestly, there's a version of this where they leave things like this because they have some tantalizing leads for season 3. I honestly feel like they didn't know how to answer these questions. And they, and maybe that's my biggest negative take here. I feel like they just didn't know how to resolve these things. So they kind of punted to next season.
Yeah, not an uncommon problem, but
absolutely
also not great.
Right. The fisherman is going to find the body. I mean, what do you think if they find the body? What does it matter? Like, so he's still alive. Do his assets get frozen? Does he have something on him that leads him back to Coop or Barney. I mean, what could be on his body that would directly connect him to them? I don't know.
I don't know either.
It just doesn't seem like they really leave that as like, ooh, they're going to find that body. And I'm like,
yes.
Is that? I mean, is that as big a deal? I don't know if that's really as problematic as they make it sound.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question.
Okay. So what are you looking forward to, Sona? If we cover this in season 3, God, this is a big if for me, I got to tell you. But if we cover this in season 3, what are you looking forward to the most in the next season?
Maybe Tori's going to go to Princeton and we'll need to see her less.
Oh, I thought you wanted to see her at Princeton. I'm like, no.
No. Gosh.
Do you want Mel and Coop to be back together next season?
I'm not particularly invested in that. I probably would rather they are not back together. But I do hope that they will continue to follow through on this reconnection with what I think the themes of this show should be regarding material things versus immaterial things and where happiness lies and middle-aged ennui and all of that. So, and if we can bring in some more thievery, that's good too, because that is an interesting hook. So that's what I'd like to see. How about you?
I'd like to see more thievery for sure. I think Mel and him shouldn't be together because there's 2 versions of that. One, if they're not together, he can be doing more criminal acts. It gives him that excuse. He's not in the house with her. Or the other option is like he's going to tell her. And I think it's a big mistake to bring Barney in on it in this show. They brought him in and they really didn't know what to do with that character after that. So I think that was a mistake. So I don't want to see him opening things up too much. I would like to see maybe Elena is going to just be double down and say like, look, I need this money. I'm tired of waiting on you. I'm tired of waiting for whatever else is going to happen. And then Coop's like, okay, well, I owe it to you. So I'm going to do that for you. But we talked about this 100 times. The fact that this show can't figure out how to be the show that it originally positioned itself as, where it would be that, and literally this was in like the description that I sent you all the way back when they announced the show in the first place, that it's about how while he's doing all this petty theft, he discovers the secret lives of the other people in his community. The fact that they can't make that compelling when it is the most compelling thing you could do with this setup is kind of shocking to me. Like it really is surprising because I mean, like,
it feels like it was right there. So
yeah,
it was like a purposeful decision to deviate from that.
And by not wrapping up things this season, I really worry that we're like, is next season going to be Corbin Burnson? He's maybe still dealing with his cancer. Who actually manipulated these funds? Does Coop still have access to the funds? Like, I again feel like it's not going to be about the cat burgling at all. It's going to be about like what's going to happen with Ash's money, what's going to happen with the investigation into Ash's death. I'm like all those things are unresolved now. So I'm like, is that what the next season's going to be about? It's very, but I will look forward to seeing Michelle Monaghan and hopefully on a Bad Monkey season 2 as well. I don't know if it's confirmed she's coming back for that second season, but I would like to see her on that as well. She'd be all over Apple TV, all over the place.
There you go.
Oh, and of course she was in White Lotus as well. I guess we'll know soon enough. So Sona, go check out Cape Fear. 2 episodes.
I will.
2 episodes for our next conversation. Over the weekend, we'll try to catch up. And so expect the bonus episode somewhere, guys, in the feed along the way. Darren and I continuing to cover the last 2 episodes of Widow's Peak. 2 more episodes of Widow's Peak. Sona, what a blast this show is. Another thing you should be watching.
I've got to get on that. I absolutely have to get on
We're almost at the end of the season, Sona. We're so close. You could binge it right at the very end.
I would love that.
Oh my God. This episode this week was slasher themed, and the lead, Patricia, the lead female character on the show, is just such an incredible performance. She's like such an awkward person, but really just utterly lovable. Seeing her be like the final girl in the slasher movie was so hilarious. Like I cannot tell you how pleasant this episode of the show was. It was so funny. Aww. And anyway, so great stuff on that show. And we'll be wrapping that up in 2 weeks. Of course, talking about Cape Fear. Oh, and of course, on the Patreon, Alan and I will be discussing The Dark Knight, the next Christopher Nolan film in our coverage. And we just discussed The Prestige just last week. So Dark Knight is next, and expect that episode in the next over the course of the next week somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to be able to record all this stuff, but somewhere in there. But of course, Sona and I, starting next Friday, will be discussing the third episode of Cape Fear, and we'll go week to week until that show wraps up. Oh, and then of course, by the way, Sona, then when that wraps up, the Apple TV, they just keep pounding out content that I want to watch, by the way. When Cape Fear wraps up, we go right into the Savant.
There we go. Finally.
Finally, after delayed from last September, finally coming out in the middle of the summer. And, the middle of the summer could be a real dead spot. There's some really good stuff coming out. So lots of stuff to cover here in the podcast. Subscribe, everybody, so you know when that becomes available. Give us your feedback. Sona and I love your feedback.
Love it.
Needs some introduction at gmail.com. By the way, 2 S's there, just in case you're saying need. If I'm not responding to you, the email gets kicked back. Needs some 2 S's introduction. Of course, our Patreon conversations going on there as well. But thank you for following along. Thank you for listening along. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Sona, for the conversation.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Go New York.
Go New York, go New York, go.